Good morning from the garden. It's March 11th and as you can see the garden is looking pretty bare. We had a period of very cold, unusually cold weather towards the end of February and beginning of March, and even the very hardy vegetables such as winter purslane and kale are looking pretty beat at the moment. But we're beginning to, the temperature is rising and we're beginning to prepare the garden for the new season. We'll be adding compost to our beds and I'm starting seeds on the windowsill at home. So hopefully in a week or two the soil will warm up enough for us to start planting and sowing outside. In the meantime though, I thought I would give you an update on the greenhouse and share our experience from our first cold season growing under glass. So let's have a look. In July we filmed a video about the summer crops we are growing in the greenhouse, and I will link to that below so that you can check it out if you like. But equally important for us is using the greenhouse during the winter for cool weather crops so that we can extend our season. As I mentioned in the previous video, this is our first year ever of having a greenhouse, so we're still figuring out the best way to use it, the best crops to grow here, and most importantly, the best sowing times. For a bit of context, our garden is in the Netherlands on the 52nd parallel north. So for my North American viewers, that would be as far to the north as the border between Quebec and Labrador and Newfoundland. Labrador, sorry. And even though the temperatures in during the winter months here are much milder than you would experience in Canada, the day length is the same. That is very important, especially for cool season growing, because once the day length drops below 10 hours a day, plant growth slows down significantly. And for us, this is around 21st of October, and it takes until the 20th of February for the day to get longer again than 10 hours. Last year, I started most of the crops for the greenhouse on the 31st of August, pre-sowing them in modules and planting them out 1 month later at the end of September. This worked well for some crops, but not so well for others. So let me show you now the individual crops that we tried. So let's start with our most successful crops, and that is mustard green in the snow and mibuna, another kind of oriental brassicas. These regrow really well. We were able to pick them several times, but the leaves of the mustard are the taste is very hot, so they're not really suitable for eating raw, or our family does not enjoy eating them raw, and I use them for stir fries. The mibuna has a much milder taste, cabbagey taste, and it can also be eaten as salad. But it seems to be starting to bolt now, unlike the green in the snow salad mustard. I have sown other brassicas as well, for example pak choi and tatsoi and kale, but these have not done well at all. Partially I think the timing was not completely right, and also they had a lot of slug damage. I think for the kales I will probably need to start them a little earlier if I want to be successful. Over here is landcress, and the plants are looking pretty good. Also I expect they will start growing vigorously now that the days are a bit longer. I've also planted 2 varieties of lettuce, Quake, which is a butterhead, and Rubens, which is a romaine lettuce, and they seem to be pretty hardy, even though Quake got damaged in the cold period that I mentioned before, when the temperatures in the greenhouse went down to -10 degrees Celsius, it's 15 Fahrenheit, and I think that it would have benefited from an additional row cover, like fleece or something. Also, this year, I will start them earlier because the butterheads are grown for their heads, and actually they need to form these before the days get too short. So that means they need to be sown and planted a little earlier. The romaine lettuce can be harvested like per leaf, so the timing might be alright, but I still think that probably sowing them 1 week earlier would be beneficial. Another crop that is interesting for growing in the greenhouse is peas for pea shoots, and they were doing really well until the cold weather period that I mentioned, but then the plants got really damaged by frost. They're not dead, they're sprouting again, and we were able to pick from them over the winter, and it's a really nice addition to salad, so I want to grow a lot more of these next year. These carrots were sown around mid-September, and that too was actually, I think, too late for them to really form any good roots. And since carrots are biennials, they will start bolting now. So if I want to grow carrots in the greenhouse, I would definitely need to sow them earlier. The problem is, at that time, there are still summer crops in the greenhouse. On this side of the greenhouse, this is where we had our sweet potatoes, and since these were only harvested at the end of October or beginning of November, I couldn't only start planting here after that. I planted these anemones then, and they're doing really well. There's already some little buds here, so I hope we'll be picking some flowers shortly. Over there I planted several garlics, and this is mainly to be able to compare growing them under glass to growing them outside. As you can see, there are still some spaces that are free in the greenhouse, and I started some ranunculus inside in a tray. This is where I want to plant it for more cut flowers in the spring. You can plant them directly, but you can also first put the bulbs in some water to let them swell, and then plant them, sprouting them. So this is what they look like now, and they should start flowering earlier than if I planted them directly into the soil. I have different colors: white, pink, yellow and orange. And oh, these are actually, I think they should have been planted earlier, but this is the first time in a week that we're here in the garden, so they had to wait a bit. And I'll be planting them about 8 inches apart, 20 centimeters. So that was a little update on our successes and failures in the cool weather growing in the greenhouse. I hope to see you soon. Happy gardening!